Not bring that. Oh! What you bring? Hey! Put that all in that bowl like that.
Alright, intro time.
He's on the phone.
Sounds good. Yeah, go. Okay.
Sold Out podcast. Right, that was the intro.
That's the intro song.
Yeah. It was.
If someone's watching the replay of this and they see like you're really like uncomfortable on the camera. So, Kanye.
Hello, Michaela.
It's like, hello.
Here.
I kind of nearly like the mic and frame.
Yeah, and I feel like here it's kind of it's an obstruction, you know.
Yeah, let's move back.
Alright, but let the camera see me, yeah.
Yeah, hold on.
I might pull a Bert Kreischer and just take off all my clothes.
Hey guys, welcome to the first Sold Out podcast. I'm Shane. This is Michaela. So this is a podcast that I figured I would do in between my magazine coming out. Some of you probably already follow it. Goes by the same name. We've had one issue that came out last September, and the second issue is currently in the works. So I figured between these long gaps that a weekly podcast. Not sure if it'll be weekly yet. We're still figuring shit out, but we'll just start a podcast in between, and then it would supplement video interviews with the written interviews in the magazine. So we have a lot of stuff coming. We're gonna bring guests on, have a couple episodes where it's just us, maybe some other people involved, and we'll just have a good time, talk about rap, fashion, anything creative.
Dive deeper into what's in the magazine and.
Yeah, exactly, because like you only get so much from the magazine, and it's cool to like the print culture is coming
Get
back
to sit
in a
down
big
with
way.
the guys.
But it's good to actually listen to like a Y-axis talk for an hour or something, because a lot of these guys that are kind of, I would say, like college level in whatever they're doing, you know, like it's not just like some young kid that's like coming up with his first idea. Like a lot of these people, like they actually have some buzz going, you know. So for a lot of people, like this probably be like their first interview or something that's long enough that you probably end up talking about all sorts of stuff rather than like just the album or whatever he's talking about, you know.
It's good to get to know about these people when they don't have so much content.
Yeah, it'll probably be the only thing that you could watch if you happen to be into the person. So in the magazine you get a sense of that as well. I have a couple of interviews done. I think I have like 30 pages done, so that's going to be out soon. I was planning to get it out this month, but just keeps delaying.
This one's going to be a smaller A5.
Yeah, hoping to do an A5, so it should be like roughly, this is A5, so like that size, so like, you know, a bit smaller. The other one was A4, and that should keep the cost down, all this stuff. So even the magazine, I'm still figuring that out in terms of like the design and everything, but it's been really fun, and like obviously the whole idea,
you got to talk to all these interesting personas and
yeah, exactly. Like the first one, even I just kind of used a lot of images, like, and there was basically no text. Whether this one like was actually a lot of like sitting down with people and like interviewing them, so there's a lot of text in this one. That's why it's taken like way longer, because the last one, even like any articles that were in there were just like about Supreme or something that I could just research on my own and then just print. But this time it's like
it's a lot more work going into it.
Yeah, I'd have to like message you and be like, what, like answer these questions, and then you come back to me, and that might be like 2 weeks from now, and I'm just waiting, like, you know what I mean? So that's just the way it is. Trying to figure that out. But obviously if people don't know, it's just for, like I said, any creative person to get involved in. So if they want to get involved, you can just shoot one of us a message or whatever. Even the podcast is open to people just coming in. The magazine has a lot of even just like photographers and stuff that kind of all just get lumped in together because it's similar. But
even if anyone wants to advertise anything, we can maybe put something in.
Yeah, exactly, because you have the print, then you're gonna have this podcast, and there could be other videos coming out in the future. I suppose I came up with the whole idea though, because the sneaker community on Facebook has like 4,000 people in it right now, and I think it's a big community of people that are quite like-minded with all that stuff. Like a lot of people in that sneaker community are creative almost by the fact that they're in there, you know. A lot of them are interested or are doing something like
creative.
Like we have a little group chat, and everyone in there is like a graphic designer or like something, like, or a photographer, like, or at least does it on the side with their Instagram, you know. So I think that's how it starts for all these people, is they start like taking pics of their shoes, and then maybe that goes into something else. because a lot of them are doing little side brands, setting up their own stuff, and that's where it all started for some of the people in the magazine, like Late Tonight, who I did a really good interview with. It's based down in Waterford, I believe, and he's had like fashion shows in like Paris and London and all this stuff, like, and he's gotten really far. And then it goes all the way to just people like doing some t-shirts, like I did a couple like months ago. Just
like-minded people getting together and becoming creative in some sort of way.
It is, and it's like there's 4,000 people, and it's growing. So it's kind of this central point that they're all coming to. So that's where the whole idea came from. There's even been a couple of events. Like Emporium, which
Coffee
they did
and Kicks even.
Coffee and Kicks, like Tola Vintage, kind of host the Emporium, and then Coffee Angel for Coffee and Kicks. But like 100 people showed up to Coffee and Kicks, probably the same showed
They're
up to
having their
Emporium.
first anniversary soon, aren't
they?
they?
They are. It just happened, I think.
First
actually,
anniversary,
because the time flies, and like I said, it only grew. There was probably like 20 or 30 people all together that came to the first one, and any of the last ones I've been at, it's been like 100, you know. So it's a big community that keeps growing, and everyone's
it's
sort
like
of into the same stuff. Yeah,
it can only expand, you know. It can never get smaller.
Even the sneaker community is almost goes hand in hand with like the hip hop community, and then that goes hand in hand with everything
like
else.
Fashion, design.
So it all like ties in together. So
it's similar to what Kanye is doing right now, where he branched out from music, from hip hop and rap, and now he's gone into like designing clothes, architecture, furniture,
like
all this
like
stuff.
that, yeah, because like hip hop, they're always rapping about the clothes or about whatever. So it's kind of interesting to, like Kanye did, like flip the table on that and then become the person that's selling the other stuff, you know.
And even one interesting thing you said to me once was about Kanye, Virgil Abloh, and Don C. How they came up together, and now they're going into these different directions, where Kanye is setting up his own big major Yeezy brand, and where Virgil Abloh's taking over Louis Vuitton and stuff, and Don C is going another way as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because it basically, like the full history with that is all like, so Kanye and Virgil both interned with Fendi. As far as I know, there's probably going to be someone listening that's like, this is all wrong. They interned at Fendi. They're both obviously interested in fashion. Like Virgil was Kanye's creative director, so he would have came up with all those visions, like, because you know the way like Kanye reinvents himself, like every album, where it's like the dark fantasy Kanye looks completely different to 808s,
and then
looks
Life of
completely,
Pablo,
everything
all
like
stuff,
so I guess he would have helped a lot with that. So when they did all of this, like, and there was a interview with Virgil and Kim Jones, who was the former men's creative director for Louis Vuitton. So Virgil has taken his spot right now. So this was like a year ago, and Kim was talking about being with Virgil and Kanye in like Japan, like photoshopping up all their ideas for these brands and stuff, and coming up with all of it. So when Kanye eventually, like on all those 2013 Yeezus interviews, when he was complaining about like Nike, like he went to Louis Vuitton first, gave him some shoes. He did like a Jasper and something else.
But even what it is, it's that they're working together. It's three like-minded people who grew this massive industry together.
Almost like a culture,
it's like a culture, yeah.
Because like Yeezy's like almost single-handedly, like, I would
taking
say,
over the fashion industry almost.
Even like the sneaker community though, like I'd say for anyone in our generation, it's really like, if you think about what a sneakerhead, like now it's probably like what Yeezys you have, what like, and then the new Adidas stuff, like the 4D stuff where it's like 4D printed or whatever, and like all this stuff, whether back in the day it used to only mean probably like some Air Max, maybe the odd Jordan and stuff like this, but now it's like completely different. Even
what Virgil Abloh's doing with Off-White, it's just he's collabing with Nike, Adidas, all these big things, you know. It's
interesting because I was thinking about even the cross between high-end sneakers and like normal sneakers. So you have like an Adidas Yeezy is almost viewed the exact same as like a Balenciaga speed trainer. But back in the day, I feel like that used to be a massive divide. Like, I don't think anybody really used to buy, unless you were really into it, like, you know, buy even like a Gucci sneaker though. It's like they would have kept separate in a sense, like buying a Gucci sneaker.
It's almost like a luxury item.
But it, like now it's like you almost style the high end stuff the exact same way you style like any other like Adidas Ultra Boost or something.
But that just shows where society is going, you know. How big of an impact hip hop, rap, it's just fashion is having on society.
Yeah, it's definitely getting big. Sometimes I wonder though if it's just our lens, because like my whole Instagram feed is just filled with that, but it's who you follow, you know.
Yeah.
So it's almost
But
like
even when we used to wear Adidas back in the day, you know, just being
it almost
out and
means
about.
something completely different now.
Yeah, it's completely different now.
It kind of is like
yeah, even the superstars, everything.
yeah,
It's just they're producing them at such a higher scale that people didn't used to have the same shoes, I'd say, back in the day. Whereas now you'd see the same people wearing the same old school Vans, you know.
yeah.
And
So you thought more people had different sneakers to each other?
yeah, people used to probably have more distinguished clothing, you know.
Yeah, like that's interesting when you think of like probably when I think of that is like even like the Doc Martens and stuff. They used to be really popular. Like they're coming back now, obviously a bit. Like like loads of people still wear them. But even like a Converse, like a Chuck Taylor or something, and the Converse old school that have always been around. Like since the 90s, and like because obviously the Chuck Taylor's gotten reappropriated like a couple of times, because like that used to be a basketball shoe, then it used to be kind of like, I want to say maybe like you know, it was punk, and then like, you know, Kurt Cobain wore them, and then it just became like real grunge kind of urban sort of thing.
It's kind of an edgy shoe, isn't it?
And now it's almost just like it's so everyday and it's so everywhere that like if you look at a lot of brands that don't make shoes, so if you look at like a Top Man or something, sometimes like they're wearing Converse, you know, in the ad, because it's such a like everyday shoe that it's whatever. Or the
everybody can relate to the shoe in a sense.
Yeah,
that's one thing I feel with the new Yeezys and Balenciagas and like all these big shoes right now, that people can relate, everyone can relate to them in a different way. Like someone who might like Yeezys can relate to them almost, you know.
But you think they like Balenciaga for the same reason?
Yeah.
Because one of the main themes in streetwear right now, I would say, is like there's a big kind of problem almost with there's too many Yeezys now, and like a lot of people are wearing the exact same thing. So if you look at like my Instagram feed, it's like you'll see someone wearing an off-white top and Yeezys in like every third picture, you know. So that becomes real stale. So then it's trying to find almost like diversity, because it used to be an exclusive item, but now it's almost becoming everywhere. But it's still only everywhere in your niche in a sense, but it still gets old probably to you because you're seeing them everywhere, you know. But
that's what I feel. It used to be a luxury good in a sense, but now they've oversold them and overproduced them in a sense.
It's what he wanted, but it's a different now kind of.
It drove the prices down, and all this stuff. They're not as exclusive, you know.
I mean, like that's a whole other conversation whether they should be exclusive or not. You know, but it's just more.
But you see, while some are becoming less exclusive, they're making other exclusive things. Yeah. So they're kind of just making the old exclusive a norm. Yeah. And making a new big thing, and that's what they're constantly refreshing what they have, and it's interesting to see. Well,
we had an interesting conversation just before we like turned the podcast on about like some of Kanye's interviews recently and stuff, and everything that's been going on. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know at this point. He's actually gotten a bit quiet in the last week or two. Yeah. It feels that way. After like it really exploded there. I would say even ever since the TMZ interview, he shut up a bit, you know. Like but it's been interesting now because like he keeps tweeting, but nothing's had like the big impact that it had there like 2 weeks ago. But what we were saying was it would be interesting if Kanye took, like he did the Charlemagne interview, I was saying, because he trusts Charlemagne. Like you can tell in that interview
he doesn't do a lot of them yet.
Like he's doing it in his own house, then he brings them to his office, and then brings them to his land that he bought, you know. And rather than even going into like the Breakfast Club or whatever. And like a couple of years ago, he used to do a couple of like, you know, he would have done a couple. So now he's like getting closer and closer to just saying his raw thoughts, because that interview was like 2 hours long.
Yeah, that's why, like we were saying, it'd be interesting if Kanye had like his own podcast. Where he would just be able to sit down and just talk what he's thinking, you know. Let his mind run loose in a sense. And because like that's the way he almost communicates. That's how he communicates his big vast ideas, you know. Because
he's almost just like throwing little images everywhere, and then you kind of have to like connect the dots yourself.
It's Easter eggs every time, you know.
Because it's all is what I imagine is like that he's finding it hard to articulate his ideas because they're like kind of a bit all over the place,
and especially trying to talk to someone else about them and trying to get them to understand as well. where Albert Einstein had this quote where he said, in order to provide a good theory, instead of having only one person or two people being able to understand it, you have to be able to present it in such a way where everybody can understand it. Anybody who has any sort of like education or sense of knowledge to be able to understand it. And that's what I feel Kanye could do if he did it on his own. He could present his ideas in such a way where he could people would understand what he's trying to say, you know? It's hard to grasp.
It's interesting that he hasn't done it in a sense. Like an interview, because you're opening yourself up to, you know, probably some things you didn't want to talk about, like when Charlamagne was asking about the Jay-Z stuff or about whatever kind of made him uncomfortable, you know? But because I mean his Twitter is his closest thing to that right now. But the problem with his Twitter is it's 140 characters and it's been shooting him in the foot sometimes. So I don't know why he doesn't even think of other ways to bring that out, and why almost like a big voice recording or something isn't what he does. Because you even get close to that in the Ye versus the People song. Like that song is just as much nearly a conversation between him and T.I.
It's almost like a mini podcast.
Yeah, like, you know? That just happens to rhyme because like him and T.I. sat for like 4 hours kind of talking about their stuff, and then some of that 4 hours was also, okay, let's put this in a song, you know, and going back and forth, because like the whole song is like line by line going back
and it's interesting how he presents his new ideas. For example, in that song Ye versus the People, the way he ends at the end, turns the beat off and on, and he says it's in order to get people to talk, and it does get people talking, because you kind of just it's over, you know. It's like but that's we were looking into that whole idea that it's all a performance art right now, that it was something to do with he wants everyone, because he keeps saying this thing like free thinking, but it's like it's almost like he's made up a new thing in between free speech and something else. Like I feel like what he's trying to get at is making people woke, in a sense, you know.
Like
open your eyes, look at what's happening.
See, I'm not sure, this is where I think most people are getting annoyed though, is I'm not sure if he's going about it the exact right way, because I get what he's saying.
It's hard to decipher what he's trying to do,
because he says in that song something, I think it's in Ye versus the People, where he's like, you know, like black people don't have to be Democrats. And I mean, so that's why he's almost like, because he's a contrarian, has to become Republican and actually support Trump and wear to Make America Great Again.
I feel all of this is almost like a topic in itself, because it just has so many branches out in different ways, like so many ways to decipher what's trying to happen.
But that's why ultimately it's like the best, nearly, it's like what Trump did to win the election was just because he was on the media the whole time. It's like probably people, he got all this free advertising dollars basically.
He got a cult
he's in the news
almost,
you know. So rather than Kanye actually paying anyone to put in ads somewhere for his album, he just makes people talk about it, put it on the news.
He has a cult following in a sense similar to Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump once said, he can like shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose any fans.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
No? Because people just follow him so closely that it's almost like a cult, you know? It's not a fan base, it's a cult really, and that's similar to Kanye. If he says something absurd, people will talk about it.
And they'll try to rationalize it as well, because like we all do it. Like whenever he said all that stuff, we're kind of like, but he means this, you know. Even because I don't know, because sometimes he comes out real sane, you know, where he just said like, what was it? Like, I don't agree with anyone 100% but myself. You know, that's bang on. But then some of it, like in the interviews though, I think it's just because he doesn't get that time to maybe, like if Kanye sat down on his own, say if he didn't do an interview, if he had said the same stuff that he said in the TMZ interview, say, someone in the room would have been like, you better not actually say that, rephrase it this way. I would have saved him all this hassle, and maybe that's what I wonder, does he need the controversy? Or is like, because he has to like it at that point, because he literally has there's no way he hasn't thought about just recording himself.
I feel that's what drives Kanye though, it's controversy. You know? He has all these controversial thoughts that he just throws out all the time. And he doesn't even discuss them himself. He just throws them out and lets the people discuss them.
But that's it as well, as he never talks if he doesn't have something to sell. Like, we didn't hear from him for the last year. And then it's like, he has an album coming out.
That's what I feel. Even at the end, it would be interesting if he did this solo podcast. And even at the end, just play this new album, you know?
Yeah, that's what we were
Just
saying. Almost
released,
like one of
yeah.
those Beats One shows or
Yeah.
something where, I mean, because like the Zane Lowe interview is almost like a meme about like the artists almost give him the questions, you know, like he does very safe interviews. Like that's why, like The Weeknd and stuff, like he's their only interview because like they don't like doing interviews.
Yeah.
And, like he's on the artist side very much, you know. So
he's real careful about what he's trying to
Yeah.
say, you know.
but I could imagine like Kanye would have the leverage though to go in and just be like, let me just have the mic to myself
and
for
they'll give it to him.
4 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
and the album is an hour of that, and probably play some other good music or whatever, you know.
It's interesting to know whether his album's going to be a quick short one or a long one.
Well, he said, there was the video of him in the studio. Most of the Kid Cudi stuff, him and Kid Cudi was all laid out. Like they had song names. I think there was like 10. I want to say it's nearly like 10 songs on each album. I want to say, I could be wrong though, but there was about 10 on each. But on his board for like his album, when he was like, because he put up this picture of, I think it's like him playing piano or something with some drums. And only
it's just like on a whiteboard.
Yeah, only 2 songs have a name, you know. So I wonder where this album's even at.
It could be. It's interesting whether it's going to be a bit like Ye versus the People, because supposedly that's supposed to be the first
song.
Either that or Lift Yourself.
I mean, I hope Lift Yourself just better not be on that album.
That was just a sick beat, but
that better not be on the album. Like that'd be worrying because like obviously Kanye is such a troll as well. Like that was one of the things that I said to a few people was like, I don't understand why that song even went on Spotify though.
Yeah.
Because even that was a bit weird. Because it's like, put it on your website because your fans have been waiting for music. Put it out. They're all like, oh, you know, and then
I feel it's just to get a bit of hype, you know.
Yeah, but
because that like
having it though on his Spotify though is such a like that's there now forever.
Could have been SoundCloud or something.
Yeah, exactly. But even on the website and SoundCloud.
Like you were saying about Kanye and his love for controversy, that verse, you know.
Yeah.
How controversial was that verse? All over Instagram, people were like, haha, listen to this verse, give you a laugh.
All the memes coming out of it and stuff. And then, like, Ye versus
People is so serious, you know?
Like, it's hard to know. But even, like, The Life of Pablo, when that was coming out, like, the infamous, like, there was, like, that piece of paper where everyone, like, coming through the studio with, like, signs, remember that? And, like, I think it was Famous, used to be called Nina Chop. And, like, some of the names changed around. And then, even as you know yourself, like, the album came out. And he still added like 7 more songs to that after it released.
And he's refreshing his songs.
Yeah, like I think even from the original track list, he like almost flipped it on its head. Like it was all over the place in a sense. But yeah, it's interesting to think about why he doesn't just put it out himself.
Yeah. Because
you have like most people, like even the J. Cole interview that he just did with I don't know if you saw it with Anthony Martinez. It was almost the same sort of thing as the Charlemagne Kanye interview because he went to, like when they were playing at Rolling Loud, he went to someone's house that they both knew and they just recorded an interview there, kind of like this. And so there was no like big kind of like, or at least on the surface, no big like industry kind of radio station vibe to it, you know. They just had their 2-hour conversation and just did it by themselves, almost like separate, you know, just person to person, you know. So there's a big trend going towards that, so I don't know why more artists almost don't.
Yeah. Even with A$AP Rocky releasing his announcing his testing album yesterday. It was interesting how he did it at like an event, you know. I feel like that's going to become a lot more popular.
Common.
More common. Even when Kanye released his The Life of Pablo.
Yeah, at the fashion show.
Yeah. It was just it's interesting how it's going into that direction, and now it's going towards fashion. Like A$AP Rocky released some Balenciagas, I think, or something that he's working on, and his album, everything. And it's, I feel as more people will be releasing new stuff, new like content, new pieces with like designers and stuff, it'll be like much more official, you know, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because when you release it just through the internet, it's almost unofficial in a sense.
Yeah, it feels like, because you're not getting a physical CD anymore or anything like that. It's just on your Spotify now.
So you can turn it into an event in a sort, you know.
Because everyone wants to get that kind of whole conversation going, trending on Twitter, you know, everybody going crazy, like.
It was interesting how KOD and Beer Bongs and Bentley's was released though. It was given like 2 or 3 days notice, and then it just came out.
I mean, Beer Bongs though was expected for a while.
Yeah.
He kept saying like, I think he was saying last year that it would be out last year.
Yeah.
So everyone was thinking like December time, and it ended up obviously being released this month, did it? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
can't
last
remember
month.
exactly, but
Might be
it's,
March
it's
now.
great.
But even KOD though, like we've seen from J. Cole before, he always gives like a week's notice and
Yeah.
it just comes out. But you always know from the timing, like every 2 years or something, you know, you're kind of expecting something, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's what the difference between say like a Frank Ocean, who just like disappears for
Yeah.
you don't know when that album's coming because
I
it could
feel-
be 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah, but his albums are always so like full of soul and
Yeah.
just emotion. You know,
Yeah,
it's almost like he disappeared for a purpose,
yeah.
and
Lived,
we're lucky
lived a
that
life
he did.
and then
Yeah,
came back to music like.
came back with some real shit. You know,
Because there's like obviously the kind of cliche of the sophomore album is always harder to follow your debut because you have your
Yeah.
whole life to make your debut album,
yeah,
and then now you have a 2-year deadline
Yeah.
or a year deadline, and now you have to make the second.
that's what
album.
happened with Isaiah Rashad.
Yeah,
His first song of the Sun's Tirade is the Top Dog Entertainment president talking to him on the phone and saying, "Where's your new album? I'm waiting for this,"
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And it's interesting how his debut album did so well, but he wasn't as motivated to release a sophomore album
yeah.
because it's harder to create relatable content and stuff. Like you said, you have your
So
whole life
fast.
to do the debut,
Yeah,
and then he's giving you a timeline to do the second one, and then you don't know whether you want to do it or not.
yeah. But I'm just kind of fascinated with that whole thing because then I think of artists maybe that's backfired for kind of doing stuff real independent. Like if I think about like Logic, who had like a gaming channel,
Yeah,
I wonder if it hurt him more than it helps him or not.
yeah.
It's hard to know. Like,
But even with sophomore albums, I feel like they're under pressure, and under pressure, like diamonds are created, you know.
yeah,
So sometimes you do get these great pieces that are made under pressure.
yeah,
Like Kendrick's verses on The Sun's Tirade are really good, you know, and
Yeah.
all the verses are just so good. The beats are great, everything.
yeah,
So it's an interesting debate whether the debut or the sophomore are like better.
yeah. Like if you
But
think
I
of
feel
artists,
like it varies between different artists, you know.
yeah, like if you think of artists who have like had a good sophomore album, it's usually a good indicator that probably the rest of their career is gonna be
Yeah.
like that.
But then there's some artists that do have a good debut but kind of just lose it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, cause that sophomore album comes like Lil Yachty fell off in a big way in that
Yeah.
sense. Like Lil Bo, that mixtape was massive. He had all these hits, like you know, in and around that time, and now it feels like we haven't heard from Lil Yachty in a while.
Yeah.
Like when Lil Bo came out, and you had I forget some of the names of the song though. You had Minnesota. You had what was his big one though? I know you had Broccoli as well. What was the very first big hit though?
X.
There was one even
Lil
before that. So like listeners are gonna be like shouting at the screen.
Oh, I don't know.
It's the
man.
one night. One night. That was
I
the
don't
first
think-
song.
I wasn't really into
Lil
Lil
Yachty,
Yachty
like,
that much.
I get
at the
you,
start.
but that's what it definitely feels like with him because Lil Bo was so big at all these hits, and then
Yeah.
like we
But
haven't
even
heard
it's
from him in a
interesting how some artists do explode with their debut album
while.
because it's hard to get that much media attention and that much
Yeah,
following at the start, you know.
yeah,
They kind of do come up on their later albums
yeah,
and then people go back to their debut albums. I
Yeah.
feel that's what happened with The Weeknd a lot.
yeah,
People started listening to Trilogy and well, not Trilogy,
Yeah, like,
Starboy,
yeah.
the newer stuff, you know.
yeah.
And then they kind of go back and they realize, oh shit, his old stuff's even better, you know.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Some of the artists that
How-
get big later on.
Yeah, how it's an entry point into their debut albums.
Yeah.
It's
I wonder
almost
how
like a
many
little
people
treasure.
are discovering Travis Scott late. Because I listened to Rodeo when it came out, and then Birds in the Trap. But I wonder because he seems to have gotten a lot bigger recently.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if he's getting more people like that, which is kind of interesting because I never would have thought
I
Travis
went,
Scott was
yeah.
like that kind of artist.
I went into Birds in the Trap, went back to Rodeo,
Yeah.
and then the days before Rodeo.
Yeah,
So that's how I got into Travis.
yeah,
Looking forward to Astro World though. Hopefully that's good.
yeah, exactly. That's probably like even whenever Kanye would be tweeting about his album or the Kid Cudi album, the top comment used to always be drop Astro World.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Everyone's waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's real intense, like.
I feel it's gonna drop soon because he will be playing at Longitude this year.
Yeah.
On the Saturday, so
I mean,
has to have a new album by then.
I would
Unless
say,
he's gonna be performing Birds in the Trap.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say he would probably have to go to the studio to work on it for a bit, you know.
But look, even
It's
with,
probably gonna be after the tour.
do you think?
Yeah. Like, I don't think it's done.
But even with Post Malone and J. Cole, they were on the lineup and they released new stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's true. But I wonder. Yeah, I suppose.
It would be interesting to find out, you know.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Something
though.
to follow up on.
Yeah, in my head though, just Travis Scott is busier or something, but maybe not.
But
It's
like
hard
you
to know.
said with Post Malone, Travis Scott has been releasing this thing for a while now, you know.
Yeah.
He's been teasing this for so long.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I'd almost like to know when Birds in the Trap came out.
Yeah.
But
2016.
Is it 2016?
2016.
Yeah, like it's definitely this year.
Has to be.
It's gonna be a big year for music.
Yeah.
Even like you have Kanye.
June.
June is big.
I
Like,
feel like June could be the good music year.
I
you
mean,
know?
there's a
What
lot
if
of
they just
dates in there
release
though. You know, like when do you
album
have
after
room
album?
for Astro World at that
Yeah.
point? Like you have Kanye and you have Kid Cudi, Kanye.
But
You
it could
have
just be
Nas, all
good
these.
music month.
Yeah,
You know?
but I feel like his would be July then. I feel like because there's a lot of dates in there.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
And even what happened to Coldest Winter?
Yeah,
Cruel Summer?
Cruel. Yeah,
Cruel Summer.
Cruel Summer is the one that came out.
Cruel Winter.
So it is Coldest Winter, I think. I don't know what that album was supposed to be called, to be
Don't
honest.
we
Yeah.
Champions?
Yeah. Yeah, that album's...
Remember, that was just forgotten.
That's flaked, like...
He released one single and then see you later.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they were talking about it for a while. That would be massive if that makes a drop.
That would just...
I always wonder if the new school mumble rappers would make a Cruel Summer. Could you imagine if, like, you have, like, Lil Pump, Lil Yachty,
XXX.
XXX, like, all of these boys hop on a couple songs
Yeah.
together, do an EP, you know? Like, all these guys, like, even...
And right now, I feel like they've figured out social media. That's how they exploded so much.
Yeah, especially
Like
Lil
Young
Pump
Thug
and-
as well. Like, they just put themselves out as such a character and stuff on social media
Yeah.
that people do want to follow them. People do want to listen to
Yeah.
music, you know?
I mean, Lil Pump has to be the best example. Like, he has God knows how many millions of I remember when he hit a million, like, only a while ago, and he probably has 7 or 8 right now.
And even releasing Gucci Gang.
Like,
that just exploded.
Like, he's one of those rappers that definitely everyone thought was going to be one song. But he just kind of keeps coming out
he's
with
persistent,
them, you know?
yeah.
And his personality, the people are still just kind of following him, like, to see what he's doing, you know?
Yeah.
Because I remember he used to be in the No Jumper vlogs all the time, like, before any of that. Like, he
Yeah.
just kind of had D-Rose, and a couple of the other songs were bubbling up, but it wasn't until... What was the song before Gucci Gang? We're doing really bad, like, figuring out the first songs that broke
our
people.
facts are so bad. We just have bad memory and stuff. I
I
can't
don't know what
remember.
the song was before Gucci Gang that he had.
I can't really remember, but
Well,
like
I suppose
even,
it was Gucci Gang was the first big
yeah,
one.
I think it was his first big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm more thinking about Escadent now, maybe.
Yeah, that's now.
Yeah.
But even like it was interesting what you were saying about DJ Jumper doing all these interviews with the back in the day with all these new
a
artists
lot of these first interviews.
and getting
you
the
know?
first interviews.
So it's kind of circling back, like, to what we're doing. You know, we're offering this space for a lot of people, but even not artists, obviously, like, exclusively, but anybody, even with a
just
fashion brand,
creators in general.
Yeah, exactly. Even business people,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, anything like that.
It'd be interesting to see who we get on over the next few weeks, and
Yeah, we've been reaching out to some people. We'll keep them. We won't say because if it doesn't happen, then.
yeah,
But we have some stuff cooking. This has almost been half an hour, so we
that's
actually
great
did
though. We
alright.
can finish
Obviously,
it off.
I suppose we should just finish up with. I mean, it took a couple takes to even get this one,
Yeah,
and we still have a lot to learn. Like we were saying, in between one of our takes, like Joe Rogan's done probably 4,000 or 5,000 hours of this.
Yeah.
You know, we did 35 minutes, and we're struggling.
and we've already learned so much. It's
Yeah.
not even a struggle; it's a consistent learning pattern.
Yeah.
You know.
So if we did this every week or whatever, like hopefully a couple episodes in, we'll
Yeah.
have this more down.
Yeah.
But it's tough. I actually, like, I've learned a lot of respect now for
Yeah,
people
yeah,
doing
yeah,
podcasts. You know.
It's interesting how you can have a conversation with someone while having this running, you know?
Yeah, recording it, like.
It's like
'Cause it
you,
just
you
brings
wouldn't
different energy.
usually you'd have these conversations all the time, but you wouldn't really record them.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to just see what you can get recorded. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it adds a whole different vibe though. You're kind of
Yeah.
like on edge almost,
Yeah.
trying to be entertaining or trying to be this, you know.
Trying to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost better, I'd feel like, to just have some sort of hidden camera and not know, and then have all like your normal
Yeah.
conversations.
It's
and then,
good to just forget about the camera in a sense.
Yeah.
You know.
that's
Even
the
just
hardest
we're
thing.
gonna have to figure out the equipment a bit more.
That's
as well
it.
and stuff.
We blessed with this space now. We have a couple more chairs that you can't see in the camera, but there's loads of space for 4 or 5 guests. But I mean, that'll probably be too many people on the mic. So
ASAP mob in
yeah,
here.
like,
What's up, boys?
we'll probably have like 3 people max, 4 people max, you know. But yeah, that's why. Keep an eye out on this spot. Keep an eye out for the magazine. There's Instagram, everything there. I'll flash up both of our socials. But yeah, thanks a million for listening. Expect the second episode soon. This is kind of just a teaser. 30 minutes. Get to
Yeah.
know. Cheers.
Happy days.